Hey everyone, how's it going? We'll get Bradley on here in just a minute. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. Hey
Ah,
Bradley.
it worked.
I know. How are you?
I'm living in the time of coronavirus.
As am I. Yes, I think we all are. I was just asking people how they were doing, where everyone was from. So, how are you?
I'm holding it together. It was really, the self quarantine was really fun for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but now it's sort of the rubber is hitting the road.
Exactly.
But I've been trying to keep a positive outlook. When they told me that you couldn't go outside, my first thought was, well, it's the perfect time for an acid peel. That might be a little I might be a little red, but I'm coming. I plan to come out of Corona. I'm looking like a quarantinager. I plan to come out of here looking young, keeping it tight, keeping it fresh.
Yes,
So that's the
I
goal.
I'm all for that. All
I have
right.
the afternoon
Well,
coffee, which the old ticker can't really handle, but we're
is,
gonna do this.
is that an iced coffee?
It is a nice coffee because it's it's
Yeah,
it's warm in my house.
I have my coffee mug here. Awesome. So we're gonna give some people a little bit more time as we're gonna get some more viewers, but I guess we can go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome, everyone. This is our second episode of Coffee with the Curator. This is our series where we sit down with the MFAH curators and chat over a cup of coffee or tea, if you
We
if you're
need a
too
theme
different.
song for this.
I know.
Someone needs to tag Doja Cat in the comments.
Yes. My name is Justin Tisdale. I'm with the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. I am the part-time meme maker, but also full-time social media guy for the museum. And on the other half of the screen, we have the amazing Bradley Bailey, the Chow Curator for Asian Art.
That's right, Dr. Bailey. If you're nasty.
Yeah, yes. So, with so many of us still at home, still under quarantine, just self quarantine, we wanted to do something that kind of spoke to the daily activities that we're doing. And Bradley has chosen a few of the pieces from our permanent collection to show everyone today. So,
Yes, it's an attempt at an art historical illustration of my retention, my retention of sanity during these difficult times. So we'll see how well it works. My grasp on sanity was quite tenuous even before this. But listen, it's good to have a reason to put on real clothes. I think,
yes.
yeah. So I've actually been trying a lot of concept looks. Since I don't have to go outside, you can just put on anything, and each one I've been referring to those my Corona personas. So each one is a different concept. You can try new facial hair, you can try new hairstyles, maybe a new shade of foundation. Just I think live on the edge during these times because we're all on the brink.
I mean, this may have been the first time I've done my hair in a couple of days, so we'll see what happens. We'll be taking your questions throughout the live stream and towards the end of the chat, so be sure to submit them in the question box down below, not the comments. So you'll see it where it says like the little question mark for everyone. All right.
All right, let's go. Let's do this.
Okay, so we have a couple of pieces that we want to share. I'm going to start with this one.
So this is great. This is actually on view at the museum, and when we reopen, I hope everyone will come and see it. This is an 18th century part of what would have been part of like a bride's trousseau. Like a bride would have gotten a lot of amazing gifts at her wedding to someone who was part of a warlord's family, a shogunal family. And so what we see here is many, many implements to get ready during the Edo period, which was not an easy thing for a noblewoman or even a geisha. You might be familiar with the pancake white makeup that you would wear, which is was actually made of lead, so great. But what we see here in front of us is a mirror stand and a mirror case, that kind of round thing on the right. Mirror cases were really important because unlike our mirrors today, which you can just get at Target or whatever, an Edo period mirror was polished bronze, so you actually couldn't touch it with your hands. So it would tarnish. So it was very, very important to have stands and holders for all these various things. The basin at left would have been part of a hair washing kit. Maybe about once a week, especially if you were like a geisha, you would wash your hair. Otherwise, your hair would just be this incredible kind of shellacked look. And you would sleep on kind of a wooden pin sort of thing to stop your hair from getting messed up. But once a week, you would take it all down and kind of wash it. And then the two things you see in front, that little gold bowl and the bar and the little teapot, it's not a teapot, looks like a teapot. This was to blacken your teeth. So again, pre-Colgate, pre-Crest, we don't have, during the Edo period, we do not have toothpaste from the corner market. So if you were a married woman or a noblewoman, you would scrub your teeth every day kind of with a wire brush and a mixture of rust and vinegar. And over time, your teeth would turn black. They would turn black, but it would essentially lacquer your teeth, so you wouldn't get cavities, you wouldn't get decay, and it was also a sign of refinement, right? Because you're somebody who has this tooth blackening kit. And then once you had your first child, you would shave your eyebrows and redraw them with black. They're really only, you go to Sephora now and you have a plethora of options, but really in the Edo period it was black, white, and red. And that was it. And the white, as I said, was toxic. But you got to work. So you do what you got to do. You make it work.
And so this was given as a gift to the bride, or
it would have been part of a huge assemblage of gifts that would have kind of come with and for the bride for her marriage, including paintings and kimono, just a huge, like hundreds and hundreds of things part of her trousseau. But this is just a little bit of, this is actually kind of a detail. We have more pieces because we have, you would use a series of combs for your hair. You would have kind of picks for your teeth and razors for your eyebrows. So this is only a kind of a small smattering of the things you would need to kind of get ready. And I selected this object because I think that during the time of Miss Rona, we need to keep it together. You need to wake up in the morning. You still need to wash your face. You still need to get ready, even if you're just going downstairs or into another room of your house, because otherwise the days are just going to run together. You're going to lose your damn mind.
Yes, that's true. So this next piece, so before I even bring it up, when I saw this, I was all about it. I loved it so much. I want to know where I can get something similar to this. But let me bring it up.
Well, I can tell you where to get it. Someone needs to tag Schultz in Japanese art in the comments. Shout out to my friend Catherine Martin, a great dealer of Japanese prints. This is part of a series made by Ito Shinsui for a watchmaking company, a clock company. And actually, it's a series of 4, and this is the 4th one. And this is, to me, really the only truly interesting one. The 3 prior are relatively boring. But this one has this fabulous background. You'll notice the clock in the upper left-hand corner. And you'll notice that she's putting on lipstick, which is very different from the makeup we talked about. This came out in the 60s, and I believe 1964 is the date. And after the war, Japan got pancake makeup from America. No more of this. I should say, actually, the lead white, I think, in 1904, 1905 was replaced by something that wouldn't poison you. So she is here being extremely modern in her poodle skirts, putting on Western style makeup, looking in a Western style mirror compact so she could touch it with her hands. Pretty fabulous. And this is the kind of thing, actually, if you live in Tokyo or go to Tokyo, if you go to Yoyogi Park in Harajuku on a Sunday, you will see lots of dudes dressed like Elvis and lots of ladies dressed like this, all just kind of just living their happy days fantasy out there. And it's pretty extraordinary. I love this print. And in addition to imported makeup, we have now imported dyes, which are for printmaking, which is part of the reason this print is quite so vibrant with her red skirt.
So what is the meaning behind the clock that's up in the corner?
Right. So the company Hota, I can't remember if it's their 50th or 100th anniversary. Clockmaking in Japan is a really wild thing. So prior to 1872, there were still hours in the day, but there would be 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of nighttime, no matter what time of year, which meant that in the winter, the daylight hours would actually be shorter, and in the summer, the daylight hours would actually be longer, because there would still be, no matter what time of year it was, 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dark. And so in the early Edo period, when Japanese first got their hands on some imported Dutch clocks, they actually reverse engineered them so that throughout the year you could tighten certain screws, and it's called a double foliate clock, I believe. And you could tighten certain springs so that the springs themselves would loosen and tighten with the seasons and adjust the hours to conform to a traditional Japanese 12-hour cycle, which was based on zodiac. So hour of the rat is like 2 a.m. or whatever it is. It's like first that's when most geisha would wash their hair out, actually, because everybody's gone home. So by this time, though, in the 60s, the hotel watchmakers had really there are actually lots of Japanese watchmaking companies. We think of Seiko, Casio, but this was a series commissioned to kind of celebrate their anniversary and their success. And it's a really wild, really modern print compared to the others in the series. I love this work. Shout out to Gail and Nana Leaf for buying it for the museum, because I think it's fabulous. Everybody responds really well to it. I'm glad you liked it. And this woman actually would have been quite kind of a swinging gal, swinging chick, if I may say that.
You can say that.
She's not in a kimono. She's wearing this kind of Western style clothing, wearing Western style makeup. She has this, I mean, great bangs. So I think she is, she's really meant to be a modern girl, and it's meant to show how modern this watch company is, which is including the background, which is just giving me realness. I
really love it a lot.
I want this to be a Zoom background.
Yes, I want this to be my iPhone background.
Fabulous. It's so good.
So this next piece, when I saw it, I'll be totally honest, I thought it was maybe a cocktail set. But
oh, it's so much more interesting, but also so much worse than a cocktail set in a way. So traditionally, one of the kind of refinements in Japan, one of what we call the 3 refinements, or things that you would do if you were like, I don't know, very wealthy, very well bred, you would do, tea ceremony, but you would also do the incense game. So this is actually a game. And what we're looking at here is like the large box is kind of the overall case for everything.
And what's it made out of?
It's lacquer. So it's gold lacquer, and it has plum blossoms on it, which makes sense for incense because plum blossoms are often thought about for having this wonderful scent. Mm-hmm. And so the point of this game was for you to be able to smell, and when I say incense as well, I should say that I don't mean like when you go to the hippy dippy trippy store and you get those sticks of like dream incense or whatever. I mean little slices of a specific type of tree, often a tree that has floated to Japan in the ocean, so it's almost been cured in salt water. And most of the trees are from Southeast Asia, from various parts of Southeast Asia. And you would slice off like an infinitesimally small little piece, just a little, like a fifth of a Scrabble tile. And you would burn this in a little handheld incense burner that would be passed around, and everybody would smell it. And then it would actually burn on like a little mica slide. So again, we don't have glass yet in this period. So mica, that kind of clear rock, will be sliced very thinly, and it would be burned. And that little mica piece will be placed on that little tray you see with those white, they're actually chrysanthemums carved out of mother of pearl to reflect the light. And so the idea was that you would go to someone's house, and honestly, it was very refined, but this is before TikTok. There was nothing else to do. People, because you couldn't eat, you couldn't drink, you couldn't smoke, You had to do like a ritual bath. You couldn't wear perfume. And so
Oh.
you'd go, yeah, you'd go and you would smell these things and try and recognize the scent, try and guess. And as your sort of palate or nose became fatigued, you would, like now at the perfume counter, how you huff the little
Mhm.
sachet of coffee beans, you would gargle some vinegar. And that little bit between rounds, which sounds, I mean,
That sounds
again,
awful.
it was fun at the time. And so then between the smell and the appearance of resin on this mica plate, which would be reflected by the abalone shells, you would kind of guess what the incense was. And there would typically be 4 scents, and you would preview 3 of them, and then there'd be one unknown. And you would vote with what you see in front there. Those are little tiles, and you get your own set of tiles, and you would drop them in a voting box. And at the end, they would go count up all the rounds, and whoever got the most right would win. And I'll say it's extremely, extremely difficult because it's not like, oh, this one's lavender, this one's jasmine, this one's rose. It's like this one is the Vietnamese agarwood tree. This one is the Sumatran agarwood tree. So you had to really train to do it. And this set is great because this set actually contains a scorecard from the last time it was played. So we
Really?
know, yes, so we know this Murakami family played, and we know that the host won, which is it's a little rude in Japan. You should have, lost on purpose.
Is
To
this
be
something that people still play today?
I think that some people still do play it today, but it's the kind of thing that, like, maybe like an old kind of Japanese Mitsukoshi lady would go do as like a hobby. It's definitely not as popular, and it's there are a number of implements you have to use, and even today, this incense is extremely expensive. Like if we wanted enough incense for us to play this game, it would be $700 or $800 at least to get it. So even today, so it's not a cheap undertaking, but it's a fabulous set. It's a very rare thing. Not a lot of museums have these. When we showed it in the gallery, we actually put out vials of scent for people to come and smell, and to try and themselves see if they could smell 4 scents and then recognize the 4th scent afterward. And it's surprisingly difficult.
It's
not a lot
really
of people are able to
beautiful.
do it. Yeah, it's a very cool thing. I'm obsessed with this.
So I want to know more about this next piece. And it
Yes.
looks like a portion of it is kind of obscured by my face.
Yeah, the
So,
dog's head is obscured.
yeah,
Oh
sorry
no.
about that.
That's okay. This is a great work that we also were able to acquire thanks to the Ting Leaves. And this is a portrait of a girl and her dog from 1934. It is by Ikeda Eiko, who was really the premier painter of dogs, some cats, but mostly dogs during the kind of 1930s, 1940s, and even into the 50s and 60s, actually. He painted German Shepherds a few times, but we also found works of him of Irish setters and of Persian cats. Really, really fine paintings. And this is it's an interesting thing. What, on first glance, what we see is a girl walking a German Shepherd in a park with an extraordinary background. I have to say, if you ever have the chance to see this in person, the background is incredible, and they're all raised pieces of grass, raised flowers.
So this is something that's on view.
It's not on view right now, but maybe one day soon, I hope. It's one of my favorite things, and it was a real. It was one of the stars of Asia Week when it was shown by Eric Thompson Galleries, and we were very fortunate that we were able to acquire it for the museum. And so, in addition to being a beloved family pet, I think this was probably a commission in 1934 by a very wealthy family who had a German Shepherd. German Shepherds became, they're not a native Japanese dog. There are really only about 2, maybe 3 native Japanese dogs, kind of the Shiba Inu, the Akita, and then the Japanese Chin, which I just want to say I'm obsessed with because they get excited and they dance and they do this thing, which whenever dogs do that, I lose
Which
my
dog
mind.
is this?
That's the Japanese Chin. It's like the imperial breed. They're little tiny things. I love them. But this dog became very popular during the kind of late 20s and 1930s and even the early 1940s because families would breed them and raise them, and then they would give them to the military as great military dogs. So to go work in the war, which is something that we did here in America as well. And so they became very popular amongst a certain class of Japanese people to raise and then send off. And indeed, before this time, a lot of people don't know this, and I didn't know this till I researched this painting. Before this time, we used to have white German shepherds, like almost like albino.
Really?
Yes, but they stopped breeding them because they were so easy to spot on the battlefield. So this family probably commissioned this painting right before they sent their dog off. A lot of people are familiar with the story of Hachiko, and if you've been to Tokyo and you've gone to Shibuya Station, one of the most popular places to meet up with your friends is the statue commemorating Hachiko, who was an Akita, a Japanese dog who came to wait for his owner outside the station after his owner's death. And but there was also at the time a monument to war dogs, which featured a German Shepherd. And so this painter really thrived on his paintings of animals. His paintings of animals are fantastic. I think he was from Hiroshima, if I'm not wrong, and the Oita Museum, the Oita Prefectural Art Museum, has 4 or 5 paintings by him. All of them are great. He was a fantastic dog painter. If people can come and see this painting when it's on view, it's a sight to behold. It's really amazing.
Almost looks like it's cut in half or something, like it's split.
Well, it's a folding screen.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, in the West, we're very used to, like, you have a painting that you commission and you put on view. I mean, for hundreds of years, right? Like in your English house. But in Japan, sometimes you would show a painting for a day, even for like a holiday. So it's very crucial that things can roll up or fold up and be stored away. So this painting, this screen, this byobu, is a 2-panel work that can be folded up and stored away when not on view.
So for this next piece, we're all about masks. We're supposed to be wearing some
Wear your
masks.
mask!
Yes.
I'm trying to tango with Miss Rona. If I go on the street and I see you not wearing a mask, I'm going to judge you very harshly. You need to put on your mask, okay?
A mask like this.
Yes, I think when you're in the house, Korean sheet mask to moisturize. When you're out of the house, surgical mask. This is a horse mask, though. This would have been worn by a horse on the kind of the front of its head, and it actually had pieces that would attach to make the horse look like a dragon. And it might surprise people to know that this is probably from around, I'd say, like 1590, the year 1590, maybe 1600, and it's paper mache.
Really?
Yes, it's paper mache with deer leather, a little bit of deer leather, some lacquer, and some kind of gold lacquer on it. So it's
Even the eyes are paper mache?
The eyes, the paper mache base, but then with black lacquer on them. And you can't really see it in the photo, but they have little holes in them for the horse to be able to see. And so this was this is one of the earliest ones known. I was very excited to find it, but these usually we have them from later periods when they are more ceremonial. This actually comes from a time in Japan when there was still feudal warfare. So this would have probably been used in battle, and it's still, at least this portion of it still survives. I love the lashes. It's like I love these.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
And so it was meant to make the horse kind of look like a dragon. And if you see any old samurai helmets, some of them have these incredible, huge kind of ornaments on them. We call them mayadate, a helmet ornament. And this was because, in addition to swords, we always think of samurai swords, but you would also have cannon fire. You would also have gun smoke. And so in very early periods of feudal warfare, you wouldn't really be able to see very much on the battlefield. And so it was very important to be able to, if you were fighting, if you were a samurai fighting for your master, be able to look up on the hill or wherever and see, oh, he's still alive. I still have a reason to go on, right? And so part of making these big helmets and making the horse look like a golden dragon was that it would be very visible over all of this gun smoke. So this is a very early piece. This is on view, and it's a really extraordinary thing. I think I dare say it's the earliest one in an American collection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So everyone wear your mask.
But wear your mask. I ain't out here trying to dance with Miss Rona. If she's in the streets, if I see you without a mask, I'm gonna freak out. Stay inside, experiment with your facial hair, experiment with acid peels, and wear a mask.
So tell us a little bit about this print.
Well, this is a painting, not a
Painting.
print. And I'm really glad that we were able to show this, because as a curator of Asian art and a specialist in Japanese art, one of the things that makes me so crazy is the kind of abuse of the word Zen.
Okay.
Apparently everything's Zen. My house is so Zen. This spa is so Zen. I'm feeling really Zen. No.
You don't like that?
It's just not right. It's not correct. I often say that when someone tells me my house is so Zen, I say, oh my God, why? Did it burn down? Because Zen is really, the idea of Zen, it's really in contrast to typical Buddhism, traditional Buddhism, maybe Mahayana or Vajrayana Buddhism, which is heavily reliant on ritual, it's heavily reliant on scriptural memorization. Whereas Zen, and especially this is some of the new research that Professor Yukio Lippitt at Harvard is showing us, Zen was really had an aspect to it that was more of a people's movement, and it was more about direct illustration of some of these Buddhist concepts. The idea that instead of going through ritual and memorizing scripture and repeating scripture and building temples to build merit, you could, in fact, get your enlightenment real quick through a flash of insight. Is something that Zen is all about. And Zen often uses a lot of humor. We think of Zen, the Zen koan, which is, translated in English often as the unanswerable question. Like the traditionals, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Boom, you're enlightened. So this is the idea behind this work. This is and I want to say this was given to us by Kurt and Alice Gitter, who are the foremost collectors of Zen paintings in the West. And this is by Nakahara Nantenbo, who was a great, not only Zen painter, but Zen monk and Zen practitioner. And so this form that you see, this circle, is in Enso. And it's not 100%, this is very Zen. It's not 100% certain what the circle represents. It could be the circle of life. It could be the moon. It could be emptiness, but it could also be fullness. And that's very Zen. And in this instance, Nakahara has paired it with an inscription. And this inscription is a great example of kind of a Zen joke, of the humor of Zen. And if this is a song, like it's an old Japanese song for children that's about like, it's basically, brace yourselves, I'm going to sing it.
Okay, everyone.
It's basically like, oh, Mr. Moon, how old are you? And so it says like, Otsuki-san, ikutsu. And so it basically says, oh, Mr. Moon, how old are you? Are you 26? Are you 36? And the idea is that as a child, you think, I used to think this way too, but not no more, that 36 was old. So the idea is that, asking the moon this question is absurd, because what is the answer? 6.5 billion? So the idea is that by asking the moon this, you kind of realize that the human time span, our concept of time, the way that we experience the world is but a small piece of actual life, of true, like, geological time. And that's really what this piece is meant to do. This piece is meant to bring on kind of a flash of enlightenment, when you realize, oh, like, that's not a lot of time compared to how long the moon has been there.
And is the inscription, everything that's in black on the side, is that also the red
The
parts of
red,
it?
so the red are the artist seals, and the text immediately above the red is Nakahara Nantenbo's signature. But all the first three lines are the song that I butchered.
It's great. You should sing it again. So for
Remix. Yeah.
remix. So for our last one, we have this really beautiful piece.
This piece is great. This piece is currently in the conservation lab, getting a little touch up, getting a little its own peel.
And if I can just stop you for a second, I just want to remind everyone that if you have questions, put them in the little question box down to the right, because there's some coming through the comments, but we want to be able to show them later on. Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. This piece is great. I love this. I think all these are great, of course, but this piece is fantastic and comes from a Qing Dynasty workshop. It's Chinese. It's the first Chinese piece we're looking at. I selected this because not only because I love it, and it's one of my kind of star acquisitions, and soon it will be on permanent view in our Chinese galleries, because of Tiger King, y'all. I think if someone had told me that some crackhead who keeps apex predators in their backyard was going to keep us all sane during this pandemic, I would never, ever have believed it. But here we are.
Here we are.
And, you know, Carol Baskin totally did it. But I think with this, as with regards to this work, this comes from a famous set that was actually sold. This piece was sold in Paris in 1904. We have the auction record. And it's the most complete one that is known. And I think there were 16 or 18 in the set, all of them different, what we would call protector goddesses. So we have to remember, and this is Buddhist, but it's different. It's not
Also on view.
It's not on view yet because we gotta. She needs a little work. Okay, she needs a little restoration.
What's a little behind the scenes?
It's been she's lived a life. You know, she left China probably during the Boxer Rebellion. She made her way to Paris somehow, eventually to New York. And I will say that even after we bought it and she came to Houston, a few pieces broke off in transit. So it's a very, very fragile piece. It's made of lacquer and wood. So it's extraordinary that it's survived since the Qing Dynasty. But she will make her glorious debut soon enough.
Soon enough.
Yes.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a few questions. We've got some time. Let's bring this back.
And I'll say that, like, you know, the difference is, oh, come here. Look, I'm gonna just show. I have my own fierce creature here, who's rocking his own Corona persona. This is Blinker. Yes.
Hey, Blinker.
Looking so good.
Everyone say hi to Blinker.
Because he'll be the only one in Houston. I don't think anybody in Houston has a blinker, from what I know driving in traffic. But he is, as you can see, he's enthralled by what's going on right now. But animals are a real big part of Buddhist cosmology and Buddhist vehicles. Even Hinduism relies on them to kind of bring the gods to earth. He's snoring. I just sent him on his way. So, you know, I think that's the difference between the Zen Buddhism that I was talking about, which is that instant flash of enlightenment, and something like the Tiger Queen, who would be, you would rely not only on ritual and incantation, but even incense and maybe even intoxicants to change your mental state to achieve enlightenment.
Well, my dog is not here because she would have run right into this camera, knocking it over. Okay, so let's look through some of these questions.
Yes.
What do we got here? Here's one. How did the Boxer Rebellion affect the curation of items?
Well, it freed up a lot of stuff for Western buyers. So we in the museum, we deal with provenance a lot. And there is kind of a distinct irony to the idea that if something left in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s and I can't tell you how it left, it's assumed to be looted and we cannot really buy it or collect it. However, with a piece like this, I can tell you when it left, and it left during the Boxer Rebellion, which would have been, you know, it depends on how you define looting, I guess. But it left in the early 20th century, very early, like 1904 or whatever. And so that has been deemed by legal bodies and UNESCO and other authorities to be prior to the deadline that we really have to worry about provenance issues. One very interesting thing, you know, J.P. Morgan with the Morgan Library, one of his options was he was actually contracted to buy. Thank you, Walter. Walter Orator, just the dealer who sold me that, just said 1904. J.P. Morgan was
Thank
actually,
you, Walter.
instead of the entire Morgan Library that we have now, he was thinking about buying the entire contents of the Forbidden City. So that would, yeah. So that would have been a whole. We would have had the foremost repository of Chinese art in New York around like 1911, 1912. So it's, you know, history is a tough thing, but we try, as a museum, we try to do the best we can to make sure that nothing that we acquire would run afoul of the law, and nothing would offend anyone, and we do tons and tons and tons of research. I mean, with regard to that piece, that's how we know it was sold in Paris in 1904, because we weren't going to buy it until we had that auction record to prove where it came from.
You know, one thing that I wanted to know is, how do you curate art that spans, you know, thousands of years in like an entire continent?
It's a challenge. My specialization is like Japan, 1850 to 1950. So I rely a lot on colleagues. I rely a lot on researching. I mean, one of the things you realize if you take an art history class in college versus if you are an art historian or are a curator, when you're in college, you get a slide list that says, these will be the 200 paintings that will be on your final. Learn everything about them. And you can trust, because generations of art historians and curators have studied them, they've been scientifically evaluated, they're famous works, that yes, that painting dates to that year and that's who made it. There is no slide list in life. When you get out in the field, you see things, you're like, I don't know what this is. What could this be? And, you know, someone will tell you what they think, but that's just what they think. So sometimes there are opportunities there. If you know more or you've researched the area more, you can say, oh, you know, they'll say, well, we think it's X, and you actually know it's Y, and Y is. So you want it, and but you don't say anything. You just say, oh, great. Well, I think we'll take it. But other times, you know, you really do need to seek the advice of colleagues. You really need to do your research. So there's a lot of it is researching. Yeah.
So we have another question that a little bit about our permanent collection. Are there any kimonos? I'm studying about Japanese textiles.
Oh, good question. We do have some kimono. I'll tell you, the plural of kimono is kimono. Because that's a Japanese word, and in Japanese we have no plurals. So one kimono, two kimono, three kimono. But we do have several. We have been acquiring more recently. We have a lovely selection of some Showa period, early kind of 1930s, 1940s kimono that are very, very excellent. And on view right now, alas, you can't go see it, but on view right now is a glorious 19th century Japanese wedding kimono. So I hope that we will be acquiring more. I think kimono are fascinating, but they have light sensitivity issues, so we can only show them for a very limited period of time. But if you are studying them, if you are studying anything from the collection, not even just the Asian collection, and you would like to come see it, you can always email and try and get an appointment. And we will do our best to accommodate you, because there is nothing like seeing the thing in person.
So we have another question about the protector goddess.
Oh yeah.
Was the entire protector goddess set all female?
So
Sort of.
here's the deal. The entire set, from what we know from the catalog, so the protector goddess portion of the set is only part of it, and they would have been female, but this is the only one actually with an exposed chest. According to the Parisian catalog from 1904, all the others, and there are two in the Musée Guimet that you can look up in Paris, they had kind of tightly bound, like Kim K waist trainer, tightly bound outfits, and they are described as having the chests of men. But they're kind of tantamount, and in the set there would have also been a Buddha.
Are there any kimonos? I'm studying about Japanese textiles.
Oh, good question. We do have some kimono. I'll tell you, the plural of kimono is kimono. Because that's a Japanese word, and in Japanese we have no plurals. So one kimono, two kimono, three kimono. But we do have several. We have been acquiring more recently. We have a lovely selection of some Showa period, early kind of 1930s, 1940s kimono that are very, very excellent. And on view right now, alas, you can't go see it, but on view right now is a glorious 19th century Japanese wedding kimono. So I hope that we will be acquiring more. I think kimono are fascinating, but they have light sensitivity issues, so we can only show them for a very limited period of time. But if you are studying them, if you are studying anything from the collection, not even just the Asian collection, and you would like to come see it, you can always email and try and get an appointment, and we will do our best to accommodate you, because there is nothing like seeing the thing in person.
So we have another question about the protector goddess.
Oh yeah.
Was the entire protector goddess set all female?
So
Sort of.
here's the deal. The entire set, from what we know from the catalog, so the protector goddess portion of the set is only part of it, and they would have been female, but this is the only one actually with an exposed chest. According to the Parisian catalog from 1904, all the others, and there are two in the Musée Guimet that you can look up in Paris, they had kind of tightly bound, like Kim K waist trainer, tightly bound outfits, and they are described as having the chests of men. But they're kind of tantamount, and in the set there would have also been a Buddha, who would have been male. There would have been Bodhisattva, who would have been ostensibly male, even though they kind of present as female. So the protector goddesses, yes, would have been viewed as female, even if lacking in kind of the typical markers of a female body. But they are only part of the set.
What?
But an excellent question.
All right. We have several questions, but I think we're about to be running out of time. So if you have any more questions for Bradley, shoot us a DM and we'll get them to him so he can answer them. But I think this is going to be towards the end of our chat.
Well, it's time to, like I said, with Tantric Buddhism, you want to alter your consciousness, maybe with chemicals. So shout out to my gal, Ina Garten. It's 11 o'clock somewhere. And I think, oh, I didn't even do this. I brought a fan in just in case it got too hot in here. Yes.
Iconic. I love it.
Iconic. Well, that last piece we looked at was literally iconic. So I hope that everyone enjoys this, and I hope that once we can see each other again, everybody comes to the museum. Perhaps not at once, but everybody comes and you get to see the Asian collection, and you get to, again, stay sane during quarantine. We're all going to see each other when we have our new complexions. Embrace your Corona persona.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Bradley. I really appreciated this, and I'm sure everyone else did. So, if you didn't get a chance to see our first Coffee with the Curator, be sure to check that out in IGTV. It's with Assistant Curator of European Art, James Anno, and where they talk about the exhibition Glory of Spain.
Oh, can I just plug one thing?
Sure.
Buy my book. Where is it?
Where is it?
Book. Flash of Light, Fog of War.
Well, what's the title of the book?
Flash of Light, Fog of War. Okay. It's available from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. I'll have another one coming out soon, but I put this in the background just hoping that somebody would,
Someone would ask about it.
Gotta make that coin.
All right. Thank you so much, Bradley.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.